So today it's all about under pressure because we are going to be diving into PneumaticCraft. Well, that's at least the plan because I have a rather large build that I have to get in place before we can even get started in this mod. Now, I may have spoiled it just a bit, but PneumaticCraft is all about pressure and, well, utilizing that pressure to do all kinds of things, such as moving around items. It can control drones. We have cannons and all kinds of cool gun stuff. Of course, armor, but it's also used in some of the late game crafting that, well, is going to have to take place if you want to get the Ultimatium star. So, to get started, like I said, wanted to set up sort of a build. So, my goal is I want to stick with this theme that we have going on down here in our spaceship, right? But what I want to do is I want to extend this and sort of have buildings that are not necessarily there. Now, the way I want to do this is to potentially keep it in space, or I can get into another mod called Compact Machines. And we could potentially do that, the compact machinery. I'm thinking, though, keeping it here in space would probably be a lot better because I have a lot more freedom over how large I can make rooms. And I was thinking about PneumaticCraft and how much space this mod is going to take up. And it can take up a little bit of space, I can say that. So I'm thinking at minimum, a 21 by 21 room would probably be a pretty good size. And what I can do is, because I have this room right here branching off, right? I could set another warp plate over here, and inside here would just teleport me to a room that is off in the distance, right? Just far enough away that we really can't see it from our ship here, and or see it on the minimap. But it still keeps us in space, and we can still utilize this same theme. It'll just teleport us over there. Now, I think it's time, now that I have basically a giant box over there set up, I think it's time to kind of figure out how this oxygen distributor works. Now, it does take a oxygen loader to make, and so I've made the oxygen loader crafted inside. It's not the cheapest thing in the world. It does require dash, but this is just to provide our basic room here. Of course, we're going to have to put one over there as well. But getting it started, so I went ahead and crafted a sink. This should be an infinite water source. And I would use refined storage to actually fill this up, but I think what I'm going to do is instead use a multi-pipe so I can make this as clean as possible. So a multi-pipe, so we have a universal pipe here, and this should allow me to set this up in a way that is actually kind of nice looking. So what I want is up in here somewhere. Maybe I can even place it. Actually, we might have to place it on the bottom or on the side of one of these. Oh, let's see. We can place it maybe... Actually, now that I think about it, it can't really go right here, so it's going to have to go up here. And I'm hoping the lights don't affect this in any negative way. But I am going to need access up here to this, because we are going to have to give it power. We also have to have a sink in here somewhere. And the more I look at this, the more I'm like, man, how am I going to fit all of this in this one place? And I'm not really going to be able to. Oh, we have a power node right here. So, oh, that makes it a little bit easier. Okay. So to do this, then I can just use a sink, and we can have a sink right here. Let me go ahead and place down my universal. And what we should be able to do is have this pull power and have this pull fluid. And then that goes right into here. And we should see fluid going in here as well. Except I'm not, which is sort of a problem, or maybe it is. It is going up. Okay. So I guess it's just instant converting the amount of fluid that we are sending it. And there we go. So we have oxygen filled up, and it says oxygen blocks 4 out of 2,000. Ooh. So maybe going to be a little bit harder. Let me see. Oh, does this need space above it as well? Because, like, this is all new to me, so I am sort of figuring this out as well. If we place this here and then here, I'm guessing it has nowhere to do this. Okay, so this is going to have to sort of go in the floor. Ah, so it will not be able to work right here. Interesting. So instead, what am I going to do? I'm going to hook it right here, I think, instead. So we're going to have a sink. Unfortunately, hiding it is going to be a little bit difficult. But there we go. We'll put that there. And hopefully it will work. And we'll be able to provide this area with oxygen. There we go. It's not telling me. Okay, all 2,000 blocks are maxed out on this. So this shows that, well, a large quantity of this room is oxygenated, but not the whole thing. Not the whole thing. So we would have to have multiples of these in order to fill this entire room. But at least while we're here in this particular area, which is the main area that we would be in, we would stay oxygenated, which I think is actually more than sufficient. Man, I tell you what, there's nothing like staring out the window and just seeing the work that's taking place. But speaking of work, this is going to be our PneumaticCraft area. At least I'm going to try and fit everything in here at the best of my abilities. And this is it. So I wanted to add windows to kind of make sure that it wasn't so boxy, and it really, really shines being able to see the stars out there and just the parallax that happens while you're in here. Oh, it's fantastic. So I do have one oxygenator in here, and now it doesn't cover the entire room, which is unfortunate, but I went ahead and built off to the side here. I know when I'm standing right here, I am technically not in the oxygenated area, but just right outside it I am. And it goes all the way up against the wall and creates a dome. Now, I'm not planning on going to be up in the air here, but the fact that it does touch from wall to wall is perfect. And means I will, so long as my oxygen stays green, we know that we're in that area. And I love the effect that this has. So if you place a block and you're not inside of this oxygenated area, it actually sounds like it's muffled, like you're out in space. But when you're inside, just like we are here, it just sounds like a normal block placement. Pretty darn cool. Now let's talk about PneumaticCraft. Now, I am not 100% new to PneumaticCraft, as I have really been keeping up with this mod's progression and journey for a couple of years now, actually, which is kind of crazy to think about. But I think I had started this like in some Skyblock back in the day, trying to learn it, and it does seem very complicated and very overwhelming at first. But I can tell you it's not as crazy or complicated as one might think. And I'm going to try my best to explain it and just sort of play around with it and hopefully make it not seem as complicated. Now, we already have some components. As you can see, just from exploring, you'll find these things in chests, which is really nice. So having a little bit of compressed iron is fantastic. And we should really take this compressed iron and we should head back to the overworld. And we need to do one thing real quick with just the build that we have so far. We need to take this back here and we need to craft a seed, right? And we should go ahead and get a seed planted so that way we have an infinite amount of these ingots, these PneumaticCraft repressurized ingots. Now, to make them, what you do is you place TNT down normally and you toss your iron, or I believe iron blocks also work, but you toss it down and it explodes, right? And the material loss rate is 20%. So if you throw down 100 of these ingots, the potential is you're going to lose 20 of those ingots and you're going to get the 80 compressed ingots in return. So this is probably a good reason to just go ahead and just make a seed, because there is a seed for crafting these. As you can see right here, it is a tier 4, so we need 4 Imperium, and we should have plenty of those. And we already have the seeds ready, so let's place this down. And I know I don't have this because otherwise we would have had essence generated. So this must have been one that I looked at and just completely overlooked for some reason. But we'll be sure to get at least one of these in. I'm also going to place it in this inner ring because I think that is where this grows faster. Perfect. So those will be generating as we start to work with this. Of course, we are going to need to make more of this iron. So let's grab some iron and let's set off one of these TNT explosions. So just plain Jane iron sounds pretty good. Pop that. There we go. We craft a bit of that. And that should work. And then we need TNT. I don't know if tiny TNT works from Applied Energistics, but just for the sake of it actually working, let's do this. So let's just use regular. So we have all of this iron. Let's go over to somewhere where I'm not worried about it blowing up. This area over here seems just fine. Of course, the closer you place it to water, actually, the better, because the mechanics of water, right? The water does not actually cause damage. Actually, I wonder if this would work like on water. Like, I have no idea. I guess a perfect time to test it, right? So if I place some blocks right here, right, and we place the TNT right next to this water, we should be fine. I'm gonna go underneath, place this, and then we're gonna throw our material right here, and I'm gonna have the TNT resting right here. And so we do need to turn our magnet off. Best thing to do is just probably place it in there. I'm gonna toss my iron down. There we go. And then set this off. And with it being in water, it shouldn't damage anything, but I bet it will convert this. Oh my goodness. Yes, that's the way to do it if you don't want to blow anything up. Just have it just drop into water. Perfect. Now, one of the big goals, right, of getting started with PneumaticCraft is creating yourself a pressurized reaction chamber. This is sort of one of the big parts and how you are going to do most of the crafting. And I wish there was a easy way to kind of show this. I guess we could show this way. So we need to find an item that requires the pressurized reaction chamber. And I guess that would be the easiest way. Can we literally make finished PCBs from a villager? Okay. That's crazy. PCBs, by the way, require all of this stuff. But they also require, one of these things requires a pressurized reaction chamber. It's this one right here. So this is going to be where a lot of things take place. So right here, we can see all of the different components that we can make. Of course, we can make iron from 1-to-1 in the pressurized reaction chamber. We can make that compressed iron. But we're going to be needed for empty PCBs and all of these other components that are going to make this mod more effective. But it also is required for the pulsating black hole for those of you who are trying to go for the Aldermodium star. So it does require all of these items to go in, and then of course it crafts the pulsating black hole, which this of course is then used as one of the parts to make the Aldermodium star, and thus used for creative items. Just sort of put in perspective why I want to cover this mod. Now, of course, some other uses you may want to get in this mod for is simply the automation from the drones, which I would have to say is the best part of this mod. You can program drones to complete tasks for you. So like grabbing items from one location and putting them in another. The drones can do that. Fluids, all kinds of cool stuff. And you kind of do a little bit of a programming sequence thing to set up and tell them what to do. It's really cool, but all of course requires pressure. Pressure is a big part of this mod, and so we need to kind of get into that. And first thing I'm going to make is a pressure gauge, so we can put this on our pipes. We are going to need pipes, so let's get into PneumaticCraft. Right here are the pressurized tubes. These are important. These are how we're going to kind of move pressure from one place to another. We also need to be able to generate pressure. And of course, we need a compressor to do that. And there's a couple of different ones we can access early on. So we have a liquid compressor, which means we can fill this with lava. Or we can do a air compressor, which is just filling it with coal or any burnable fuel. However, we are going to need reinforced bricks. Now, it may be a little complicated to figure out what exactly we're trying to make here, because when you click on reinforced bricks, you got to realize there's also reinforced stone, and then thus you need stone, right? So let me craft some stone. I don't have stone automated. Well, I do have it automated, but I don't have it just set up to just run all the time. Where's all my stone? I should have a couple of pieces. There it is. So I should have a crafting recipe for stone. There we go. Let's go ahead and get that set up to make a bunch, because we are going to need a bunch, because this reinforced stone is used for tons of stuff actually inside this mod pack. Okay, so reinforced stone. Let's go ahead and get started with it. 16, and then we can make this, which allows us to make a air compressor. Now I believe over here there is there a page for this mod? It does not seem like it. So there is not a progression it looks like that goes over PneumaticCraft. Yeah, okay. So, interesting. I would figure with it being such a, you know, complicated-esque looking mod, that it would definitely have some sort of questing page. But I guess you can use me for that, right? But I think, actually, if you open this up, I wonder if PneumaticCraft has its own sort of guide itself that's built into the quest, because some mods do. As you can see, some mods kind of create their own guide. But you know what? I'm actually not even seeing it here. Oh, no, it's right here. So, yeah, I guess if you really need to figure out what exactly to do and how to progress through this mod, you have the advancements, and this is a great tool. All you can do is hit L. This should open it up by default. Same way you would access the advancements for Minecraft. And yeah, look for the first explosion of many section. And as you can see, yeah, it'll tell you exactly what you need to do. You need to follow this sort of line here. And yeah, we really are going to be working on creating PCBs. So we have ourselves this. Let's see, is this a part of it? Yep, we got building pressure. Say hello to my little friend, which is a machine gun, or a minigun. Sorry, not machine gun. Okay, so enough of that. Let's go ahead and place this down and see what happens. Okay, it's pretty straightforward, right? It's a pretty cool looking machine, got a very complicated looking interface. But, oh boy, what was that? You vandal. What do we do? Breaking machines like that is so uncivilized. Consider sneak right clicking with a pneumatic wrench instead. However, pneumatic wrenches we are going to have to get into. I kind of like to point these in a certain direction. Of course, we're going to be moving these a lot. But we are going to need coal. Thankfully, I have 93,000 coal. And when we put it in there, it starts making the worst noise you can imagine. It is not pleasant. And adding a tube only moves it to a different location, right? And it is going to take some time. And us stopping it, I believe, still doesn't stop the pressure from being generated. The only way to do that is to, of course, break the machine. And if you make this mistake, I am so sorry if you don't realize that you need to break the machine in order to get it to stop. Because even changing its redstone signal doesn't matter. Oh my gosh. So let's actually make something that we can use. And first things first is a charger right here. So this is a pretty useful item, charging station. So we should be able to use this to charge up our items, such as that item that it mentioned to us, right? A pneumatic wrench. This is a pretty important tool and is used to configure a lot of the components that we're going to be getting into. So we have a pneumatic wrench. Pretty awesome, right? Let's talk about tools. And if I go ahead and place this here, and then I use a pipe right here, and then I place this down, you can see it is connected to our pipe. And then I also have the pressure gauge. Probably a good idea to use this to sort of see how much pressure, right? It should be used to craft ourselves a pressure module. Let's take a look here. Where is it at? This is a manometer. Okay. Hold shift. Okay, right click. Given information about this block. Of course, we have a lot of information already given to us. But I'm pretty sure the pressure gauge tool module is what we need, right? Yes, this allows us to sort of see it on here instead of opening the machine and seeing how much pressure. Now, the thing is pipes can pop. Pipes can kind of go boom. Does it cause a huge explosion? No, but it does break and the items will end up disappearing, which is kind of unfortunate. But what we need to do here, put the coal in. As you notice, it's not so loud. If we turn it on, it's starting to generate pressure. We see that underneath, under our Walla, or in this case, Jade, or whatever it is. We can see that information, but we can also see the gauge right here going up and the gauge in here going up. If you let it go too high into the red, it can pop, blow up, for example. Now, you're going to notice something weird. This thing can hold, I believe, 20 bar worth of pressure. And yeah, we're not going to be able to produce that with a single air compressor. We're going to be able to get roughly 5. As you can see right here, 5 bar is where this thing goes. And so it shouldn't overpressurize because it should really only go to 5 bar. Now, right here, if we place this in, oh, we're using it to turn, we should be able to put the item in here, I believe. I think. At least we're supposed to be able to put the item in. There we go. Put the item in by right-clicking on it. Just don't right-click it on it with the actual thing. Now, what will happen is it's going to normalize the pressure. So this right here should go to 5 bar, but it'll only be able to go as high as the current amount of pressure that you're supplying. So, as you can see right there. Also, by the way, this thing is useful for emitting a redstone signal. So this is how you would actually automate turning on and off your air compressors. Very, very important. I love how the sound that it's making sounds like, it sort of sounds like when you fill up a basketball or what have you with air, or a tire when you're pushing a lot of air through. All right, so right now it's got 2.4 bar. As you can see, we got some warnings here. Pneumatic wrench can't be discharged. Or charged. This is items and charging station pressure has equalized. So yeah, it's doing some weird stuff for some reason. And I wonder if I need to break some of these pipes or what have you. But we can go ahead and pull this out. You can see we can actually break the connection here as well, which is very interesting. I almost wonder if that is so that way we can overcharge it, right? Overcharge, and then when we put the item in, we do this, and then all of that pressure charges it real quick. I'm unfamiliar with that. This is all kind of new. These blocks used to look different, and it's interesting what they look like now. But yeah, I'm going to leave this for a little bit, and we're going to go into the next part of this mod. So the big part of this mod, of course, as I mentioned, was that pressurized reaction chamber. And so we need to craft that. Now we can build this in 3 different sizes. It looks like 3x3, 4x4, and 5x5. We're going to be building just a 3x3 at the moment. And you build this thing with the middle being hollow. So you need to leave a space in the middle, but it is going to require some other things like a pressurized chamber interface. We need a way to put the items in and also a way to get the items out. So it's best to use this, and we'll also use some hoppers here soon to sort of sort this out. But it does get a little bit complicated when looking at how this thing works, as it does have an I and an O on it, and it does matter which sides you put it, one for import and one for export. Now we have pressurized walls. And we're also going to need, I believe, a piece of glass as well. There's pressurized chamber glass. And so we will also be using this. This right here is going to allow us to have a little window. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to see anything. Ah, there we go. Perfect example of what happens when you let it over pressurize. As you can see right there, because this pipe, right, was overfilled. You can see the amount there kept going up. And it's funny that it's still showing that it's filled up and nothing's draining, which is kind of interesting. That has happened. And apparently we've created an infinite sound there for some reason. By the way, if that sound thing happens to you, yeah, all you gotta do is restart your client. Apparently it's like a client-side bug. Now, of course, the explosions will happen because it overpressurizes. Now, there are ways of actually preventing that. So if we take a look, there are security upgrades that we can put inside of our machine, and that should sort of help. Now, this right here, I believe, unless things have changed, it's been a little while, and a lot of these have changed the looks, so I'll actually have to look through here, but it used to be like a little camera. There's a security upgrade. So yes, security upgrade will, yeah, help. Help significantly. It doesn't really tell you in here, it just tells you what it's used in. But this security upgrade is super, super helpful and should help the machine not blow up. Now, I can't vouch for the pipe, but this will definitely help with the machine. So now with that fun out of the way, let's go ahead and craft this thing. So I am going to go ahead and place it right here for now. And this is how you go about building the multi-block. So you just use the pressurized chamber walls, and we're going to build a cube out of this. Very simple, just like so. And then on the front, I'm going to place my reaction chamber glass. And on the back, not worried about it. But on the sides, it's a little bit different. I'm thinking I can either use the top or I can use the sides. I think I'm going to use the sides and go from this side to this side, right? And so we'll input over here. And for that, we have this right here, this chamber wall. And you can see there is, it looks like orange now, orange and blue. Blue usually means input, whereas orange means output. So let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to place this one on this side, this one on this side. And as you can see, we have output on this side and blue on this side. Hopefully input in orange and blue, or orange and blue still actually mean what they mean in every other mod. So with that, here we go. Yeah, it looks like, yeah, blue is insert. And then of course, orange shows here export. Nice. Now, these require redstone signals to work and open the gates. So this is where we're going to have to do a little redstone magic to get these working. Honestly, you can do it just with levers, but automating it later on is going to require an entirely different process. I think that it's done, but it doesn't show that the multi-block has been completed for whatever reason, which is interesting. Ah, that's right, because I almost forgot about the pressurized valve. That's right, it does need a valve in order to send the pressure. So as soon as I place that, there we go. Now we have the chamber finished. Perfect. And of course, I want to be able to get in here and get that item out. Otherwise, the item will actually stay in here. Believe it or not, it will work. It will work with the items inside. Perfect. Now, we just need to get and provide power to this, or pressure, not power, pressure. Yeah, that's a whole thing. Now, before we do that, let's actually figure out a way to send the items in and out. I don't want to introduce pressure into the system until we know a way of doing this. So, to put things in, all we have to do is make sure to somehow click a hopper on. And these are special hoppers. These are omnidirectional hoppers. And as you can see, this is facing into here. Very cool, right? But you can also do the same thing here. So let's place this one, but on this one, we'll use the wrench to rotate this around. We should be able to, actually, no, we need this turned the other way, right? We need an inventory. So let's grab a barrel. And then I will just place a barrel right here for now. And then we'll place the hopper facing down onto it and then rotate this into here like that. Pretty cool, huh? Okay. And we still might have to take this out because it does cover up the entire block that we're going to need to interact with. Now this block, as you can see right here, exporting crafted, exports only items which have been crafted in the pressure chamber. Wow, that is a awesome feature that wasn't in this in the past. And it says use this under most circumstances. Wow, I did not know that was a thing, and that has made this a lot easier. Now, we should be able to just send an item in, right? So if I send an item in, notice the door isn't opening. Nothing's sort of happening here. Can I place an item in here? No, as you can see, you cannot, because this first gate has to be open to allow the items in. Now, to do that, what we can do is, I believe, use redstone. And this is where, like I said, all the redstone stuff is going to come in handy. I don't think this has to have power in order to actually activate the gate. It might. It might actually need power in order to function, because this might actually just let the items in. Well, let's get this hooked up real quick and hook it into a simple air compressor. And let's just see if this actually functions or not. Kind of curious. Man, a lot has changed actually since the last time I played with this mod. And it hasn't even been that long. That long since I've messed with this. Very interesting. Shift right click to break that. All right, so all we have to do is hook the pipe in like so. As you can see, it's nice and hooked in. We'll throw the coal back in here. That's getting pressurized. And we should see this going up. While we're doing that, just to make sure that we don't break anything, let's just put a security upgrade in here. I think that's probably good practice, is to do that. As you can see, it's got levers already built in. That's kind of cute. Into the recipe. There we go. Pressurize. And then, yeah, we should be able to open up the security, or right here, and put that in there. Ah, nice. I wish it kind of gave you a description of what the security upgrade done. So inside here, that's building up. Does that mean this is actually functioning? So to test, let's take iron. This is the one thing that it actually utilizes. And put the iron in. Ah, yes. So it does automatically work. And then the door should open. We see the iron enter inside. Oh my gosh, they have made this so seamless. So seamless. And once it reaches the exact pressure to actually turn this, which we should be able to see that inside one of the crafting menus here, it is going to need at least 2 bar worth of pressure. So once this hits 2 bar worth of pressure, it will then craft. And then once it's crafted, it should, according to this, automatically export. They have really streamlined the process, because it was a kind of a headache to honestly get the items in and out of this thing. Now, you do lose pressure on item insert and, of course, item extract, because there's a little bit of leakage that can potentially happen when the doors pressurize. Like there's a gap in here, and of course that is going to fill with air and depressurize, and all that's going to open to volume, and yep, all that good stuff that happens with air. But should be getting pretty close. Now, let's see. This is not actually going higher than 1 bar, or it is. It's just very slow at doing it. Is it because of the security upgrade? I don't think it's because of the security upgrade. No. It's just literally that slow. It's just going up 1.01 at every second. Now, we can speed this up by, of course, adding more air compressors, in which I am going to actually do that. So, as you can see, I have all of my air compressors now placed in with my security upgrades inside of them. Now, over here, I guess it does tell you what information can go, what upgrades can go in, which is this is where all the information was stored. I just didn't know it was here. And so, yeah, currently I have 1 upgrade. It says max upgrades 1, so we do have security upgrades. Adds a built-in safety valve to the machine, automatically releasing some air if the pressure would rise into the danger zone. So it protects the machine, but can cause problems on other things. So yeah, insert valid items in the chamber. This is saying status 3 by 3 outside, 1 by 1 inside. Perfect. Okay. So all I have to do is add some coal, and let's go ahead and get all of these turned on. This will help speed up, and of course there are speed upgrades which will produce air faster, but this will also increase the pressure faster. So let's go ahead and put this to the test. Let's go ahead and drop the iron in, and it should place the iron inside. As you can see, this opened up, iron goes inside. It's going to wait for all of them to go in. And now there are situations where you're going to be putting multiple types of items in, and so you're going to want to do that in an interesting way. But this went in, and it's got multiple items, right? Multiple items. But as you can see over here, it's only, is it going to do all of them at once? I believe it does do all of them at once. And once it gets all the items pulled out, it should go into the hopper after it closes the door. There we go. So as you can see, it's best to do all of your items in bulk to get your pressure all set up, which is fantastic. And there we go. So we're already making this material, but we need to get into PCBs. And that's where, well, it's going to take a little bit more crafting. So PCBs are going to be utilized in assembly crafting. It's used in a lot of the advanced machines and stuff. Basically, all the cool goodies are going to kind of be gated by these PCBs. So for example, it's a failed PCB. This is a finished PCB. It's going to require capacitors and transistors. And then of course, it's going to require an unassembled PCB. Now to do that, there's 2 different ways. We have an etching tank, which before used to place it in etching fluid, etching acid that was just in the world. But now we actually have a tank to put it in, which is really nice. And it has a chance of giving you an assembled or a failed. That's kind of scary. But making them, it shouldn't be too difficult. We combine a few things to make, it looks like plastic sheets together to make these. But this is where things kind of make a turn. Plastic, I believe, is its own process in how we're going to be generating this stuff. So yes, plastic from this mod requires you to get molten plastic. And don't be scared of this, because I'm going to talk about this here. But we're going to get into thermo-pneumatic processing. Yes, it's a processing plant. So we're going to need this. And this is just one part of it, right? We are going to need LPG, in order to do this. Or it looks like over here, biodiesel would work from immersive engineering. Biodiesel is honestly easier to make than this whole process, but we're going to do it the way of PneumaticCraft. So how do we get LPG? LPG is just one of the parts of the refinery. So we're going to be taking crude oil that we can get from the overworld. I believe we should be able to get crude oil. There's also other ways of getting crude oil, such as the Amadrone tablet, which is like an Amazon funny thing. Because a drone actually comes in and picks up things and drops off. So as you can see, we get 1 bucket for an emerald. I think it's probably best just to grab a bunch of crude oil and throw it in, but it goes into a refinery, right? And then the refinery does some things. We have to mess with temperature. Oh, that just released some air. As you can see, it's releasing air when it gets too dangerous. I'm actually kind of thinking one of these pipes are probably going to explode. So let's just get back over here for right now. Pressurized air is kind of scary. So back into this. Yes. So, yes, the plant. To make plastic, we have the LPG, right? That's what we're making. We send this oil, and it's going to make 4 different fluids. As you can see right here, diesel, kerosene, gasoline, and LPG. Of course, we're after LPG to make plastic. And so, we're going to be managing heat and pressure. That's going to be super, super fun, right? We can also take excess gasoline and turn that into more LPG, which we'll probably have to do just simply to make more plastic. So I guess let's get into this process. It is a process to set up. So refinery controller, and then also refinery outputs. We need an output, I believe, refinery output for each one of these. So I guess we place down the refinery controller, and that's where we feed the oil. And then our outputs are these 3 different fluids here. And those are dealt with the refinery outputs. All right, so I think over here should be plenty of space to hook this whole setup up. So I have the components built. They're not that expensive to sort of build, but this is sort of what the refinery is going to look like. As you can see right here, it's topped off. Now the temperature plays a huge factor, and there's going to be some components that we actually mess with along with pneumatic stuff in order to get this to work. I'm actually going to turn all of these off by just breaking them right now. Hopefully help with the power. Okay. And of course the hissing sound, which is client side. Actually, I think it's just this releasing air. So as soon as this is done releasing air, it should be fine. So what do we need to do here? Well, first I need to get a tank full of oil. That's pretty important, right? To sort of feed this oil. And then of course we need to heat the oil up, I believe, in this particular case. So refinery controller, as you can see, the temperature needs to surpass 100 degrees Celsius in order to start these, the components to sort of separate. Now to get the temperature up, there's a few things that we can do. And actually one item that we should be able to make that will heat this up. Now to generate the heat that we are going to need, there's a couple of different things we're going to mess with, and that is the vortex tube. This is how you can generate heat and cold with the same thing, right? So we provide this pressure, and this can actually heat things up. It's pretty interesting. So place it down. You see there's a cold side and a hot side. Of course, we can use the wrench to turn this around and get the direction that we want. But I think in this case, we of course want to heat. I don't know where it went. There it is. And so I'm going to place it right here. As you can see, the cold side, and we have the hot side. And I believe, yeah, we send this some sort of, pressure, right? And that should work. Now we may have to use more than one of these. Of course, I have this set up, but we may have to use more than one of them because the higher the pressure, I believe the hotter this is going to get. So at the moment, let's go ahead and hook this up. We're going to have it going from both sides. Of course, it will regulate the pressure. Make sure to get all of our upgrades in all of these. And of course, get heat in here. But before we turn everything on, I think it's probably best that we go collect some oil. Now to do this, I am going to be using a hose pulley and a hand crank. And we've used this before for our infinite lava. However, our sources here are not going to be infinite. So we are going to need some sort of tank to put this in. And I think a rather large tank should work. There's a couple of different ones. Actually, thermal has a really large tank, or it has the possibility to be a very large tank. Let's see, tank right here. However, it is sort of a pain to make. Let's see, we should have all of these resources though. The problem that's a pain is just the rubber. So making the rubber just requires you to go over and over and over again with water buckets. It's, yeah, kind of a pain. By the way, I just noticed this, but I was working on the tank, and the expansion tanks, there's a mod adding extra things to thermal that I was unaware of, and just realizing how much larger this thing can get is kind of just mind-boggling to me, because the creative, right, tank capacity 16 times, that's a creative one. You can go to 16 times with this shellite. There's a soul infused, which just requires a soul ingot, which actually we might be able to craft some of this stuff. It also, though, requires niter, which we should have. Can I make this stuff without actually putting it into the machines? Doesn't look like it. So it needs invar, soul sand, dust, and appetite to make this stuff. But I don't need a tank that big. I was just looking at it and going, that's 8 times capacity. Of course, I made the expanded tank, which already does 4 times the capacity. And just to make it much larger, right, we can take it over here with some lapis, and we can enchant this. And I believe that over enchanting works over here. So if I put this in, for example, we can get a holding 7. That's already an insane number. So yeah, I'm gonna put holding 7 on here just to see what it's like. So let's do this. Let's put a holding on this thing. Holding 7? Just with holding 7 alone, it holds 144 buckets, which is pretty large for this kind of tank. But now to upgrade it, that's where it'll go 4 times this amount. Now to upgrade it, we put in here, of course, make sure it's in augment mode, put the augment inside, and then we should be ready to go. Now placing it down, you can see it has a large storage, but we should be able to increase this, the input and output rate, hold shift to make it go faster. And there we go. On the base, it's 144, but inside with that augment, it's 576. Very interesting. I wonder if we can put more than one augment in here. That holding, though, is just ridiculous. Now, because we're going to be dealing with like blocks placed like in over oceans and stuff, I'm going to go up here to the cloud level, and I'm going to grab some cloud blocks. If you're unfamiliar with cloud blocks, basically you should be able to right click with a bottle while you're up here. And as you can see, you're going to gather some clouds. And the good part about clouds is you can just place them anywhere. As you can see, it's a block that you can just literally place anywhere. Of course, you can recollect it if you want. But it's going to be very helpful for us just placing down our hose pulley. Yeah, we're going to want to take a couple of blocks with us. But it's going to be very helpful for placing the hose pulley and, you know, collecting all of our liquid. Honestly, right here is a nice little pool. It's not a lot. It's not a lot. I do want to collect a fair bit of this. But I'm going to go ahead and place my hose right here and drop this all the way down until it stops moving. And the good part about this, this fluid cell is when we place it down, I can actually just configure it to auto input, and it's going to automatically pull all the fluid out. How nice is that? Look at that. We got 71 buckets just from that one operation, which will hopefully last us a little while. Now, I did manage to get myself a bunch of oil, which is very, very nice. But before I throw it in to start the process of this, I think we're going to have to wait till next episode, because today was an incredibly long episode. But of course, this mod is, yeah, has a lot of content in it. And of course, it's going to take multiple episodes in order to kind of go over and get into. But I think this next part is definitely worth watching. So click that subscribe button if you want to stay tuned, and of course, figure out what happens next time. And of course, this video will go out the next day after this one goes live. So if you haven't already checked out my Discord, be sure to check that out, discord.gg/ChosenArchitect. And of course, I think it's time to thank the supporter of today's video. And that, my friends, is going to be a huge thanks going out to Mick Fook. Thank you so much for your amazing support, by the way, over on the Discord, becoming a Discord premium member. And of course, guys, if you're interested in joining, like I said, join it. The link down is in the description below. You do not have to be a member or anything to join the Discord of over 26,000 members at the moment. So of course, the only way to grow that is by you checking it out. I do also live stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/ChosenArchitect. I do that 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursdays, and Fridays. So check that out as well. I would love for you guys to follow me over there. And of course, I'll see you guys in the next episode. And as always, thanks for watching.